Material handling and truck loading and unloading. When moving materials, always consider using equipment or a cart first. If moving the material manually is deemed necessary, remember the following. Perform your stretch and flex. Have a wide stance. Squat down by bending at the knees and hips and keeping your back straight. Keep the load close to the body. Have a good grip. Keep the chest out and your abs or core tight, feet pointed at the load, and lift with your legs, not your back. Avoid twisting, bending, and carrying loads with one hand. When unloading trucks, make sure to inspect loads before releasing load tie downs. Watch for shifting, rolling, and tipping. Do not stand opposite of forklifts unloading or placing loads on trucks as materials can get pushed off, tip, or roll. Personal protective equipment. Upon entering the job site, standard personal protective equipment shall be worn including boots, hard hat, gloves, ANSI Z87.1 rated safety glasses, and high-vis outerwear. Many tasks will require additional PPE for safe operation. A PPE chart will be posted around the job site, which requires special PPE depending upon a given task. Remember that PPE should be properly cared for and inspected prior to use. Environmental. Fuel storage will be in secondary containment unless double-walled. Permits are required if storage is over 1,250 gallons. Chemical storage will be in containment. Contractors using equipment with hydraulic fluid, oil, or fuel shall have spill kits that will accommodate a spill based upon the size of the equipment in use. All spills will be reported to KP, and spills over 25 gallons may need to be reported to the EPA depending upon what was spilled. Fall prevention and protection. Falls continue to top the list of fatal injuries in construction. Therefore, KP enforces a 6-foot rule for all trades as the trigger height for protecting falls. KP encourages utilizing alternative methods to complete a job to prevent falls. This includes hazard elimination by performing tasks from the ground prior to being elevated, passive fall protection through the use of guardrails or fall restraint, which act like a tether, preventing access to the fall zone, all of which are alternative options that, when feasible, greatly reduce the chance of a fall and minimizes injury. When fall arrest is the necessary option, meaning the equipment stops you after you have fallen, some important requirements must be followed. First, you must be trained and authorized to use fall protection by your company. Second, you must be aware of and follow manufacturer requirements for the equipment you intend to use. Third, you must have a 5,000-pound anchorage, which would support the weight of a full-size pickup. Fourth, you are required to verify that your equipment can provide the necessary fall clearance, that is the distance required to prevent you from hitting the lower level in case you fall. And fifth, you must have a rescue plan in place in case you do fall. Remember that holes greater than 2 inches must be covered by a material capable of supporting twice the intended load, secured and marked as whole. When working near or over adjacent trades where tools and materials could fall, we require tow boards or netting for dropped object prevention. Tool tethers in exclusion zones may be required by KP as well. Horizontal lifelines are installed only with engineering design, and guardrails are implemented per OSHA standards. Mobile and heavy equipment and vehicles. Only trained and authorized persons may operate mobile equipment and vehicles, and prior to use, daily pre-shift inspections are required. Any defect that affects safety will be repaired prior to use. Never disable safety mechanisms or alarms. When mounting and dismounting, face the equipment, never jump, and practice 3 points of contact. In order to prevent struck-by incidents, we require several things. First, complete a 360-degree walk-around prior to accessing the equipment. Second, use spotters when working in congested areas or blind spots. Third, practice first move forward, which includes backing into parking spots or pulling through so when you leave, your first move is forward. Fourth, keep your eyes and mind on task. And last, ground personnel must make eye contact with operators when in their working area and remain visible. Remember to lower ground engaging implements such as buckets and blades to the ground when equipment is parked unless designed otherwise. Standard PPE is required with open cabs, and seatbelts shall be worn by all riders of equipment, trucks, and buggies. Observe site speed limits. MSD's site speed is posted at 15 miles per hour, and KP construction areas is 10 miles per hour. All vehicles, buggies, and equipment shall have a company logo. Mobile elevating work platforms. Fall protection is required on boom lift mobile elevated work platforms, but not scissor lifts. No standing on railings. If a need arises to tie off externally to the lift, only manufacturer approved anchorage is allowed. Remember that on some MUPs, the counterweight sticks out and presents a pinch point. Therefore, the swing radius should be taped off when encroaching on walkways. Keep within rated capacities. Do not use as a crane. Only approved lifting devices are permitted. Ensure drop-offs are noted and protected. Forklifts. You may only operate a forklift upon receiving training and receiving authorization. Follow forklift operating rules including ensure forklift stability, which is affected by ground conditions, load weight, and load distance. Know load weights and stay within forklift charts to ensure stability. Ensure load securement when traveling with loads, whether supported on forks or suspended with rigging. Ensure escorts on traveled roads when vision is restricted. Mindful of overhead power lines and observing minimum approach distances. Maintain uneven surfaces as much as practical when forklifts will be regularly operating. Avoid open holes on trench edges that can collapse. Inspect forklifts when operation. No free rigging will be allowed. Only rig from manufacturer approved lifting points on forklift booms or with lifting attachments on forks. No holes may be burned in forks. Cranes. Crane operators will be certified by NCCO or similar, and a process of skill verification is required, exception for permanently installed overhead cranes. Critical lift plans will be required upon request by KP. Critical lifts generally include loads over 75% of capacity of the crane, two or more cranes, or with high value or long lead items. Swing radius protection must be established. Cranes will be inspected at required frequencies, daily, monthly, and annually. Clear communication must be established between crane operators and qualified signal persons using hand signals or radio signals. Crane operators may not leave the seat of the crane with a suspended load. Rigging and lifting. Do not rig loads or provide signals to crane operators unless you have been trained and authorized by your employer. Select rigging based upon the weight of the load and the material being lifted. Find the load center of gravity and securely rig loads, including leveling devices and proper hitches so that they cannot become displaced during the pick. Utilize softeners when the potential for damage may occur. Make sure to plan out the lift sequence and the load travel path as well. Prior to rigging, inspect your rigging and remove damaged rigging from service. When loads are swung overhead, a means of warning such as a horn or a whistle shall be used. The crane horn is acceptable so long as trade partners can hear it over existing noise. Non-conductive taglines will be used for all overhead loads.